Yo, what's going on, everybody? I think everyone can hear me. And I think there was a audio issue, but now already fixed it. I want to know now if you guys can hear me well. I mean, Vincent, Barry, Pascal. Like, let's start with Vincent first. Let's do a quick mic check before we officially kick things off. Vincent, can you hear me loud and clear? All good on your end?
Yeah, crystal clear.
Yeah, same for me here. So that's good. Pascal, what about you? All good there?
Yes, all good. Can hear you. How about me?
Yeah, I mean, I can hear you perfectly fine as well, Barry. Last but
Awesome.
not least, no, all
Hello,
good?
can you guys hear me?
Yeah, all
And
good, guys. I mean, I'm really glad when first and foremost, I'm the last one to join. So that's awesome, right? When all the guests are already here before me, that's second to none, I'd say. That's just good to have. And I see that we have a couple people already sending messages here in the live chat, joining us. We have 50 listeners or so. Like we're sending the push now to every single person to listen to what we are going to unpack. So let me, without any further ado, officially kick off another CMC live here on CoinMarketCap. You know, we are the home of crypto. And here on CMC Live today, we have a very interesting topic to chat with the teams from Flock, Acurast, and SKD as well. We are going to talk about confidential AI and why it does matter to you. So, hey there, for all the degens, the hodlers, the day traders, no matter what you are in this space, you are, as I said, more than welcome here. Today, the markets are doing quite good, and that's why I think our conversation is going to be really good as well. And you should be around for a great ride together with us. And I want to first and foremost introduce the guest that we have here. And I'll start things off with Vincent. Vincent, welcome to CMC Live. I think it's your first time here. Correct me if I'm wrong. So a huge pleasure to have you here. Welcome to CMC Live.
Hey, Gabriel. Great. Thanks. Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Vincent. I'm the CFO of Flock. So also was previous capital markets attorney at Wilson Sonsini, so pretty much familiar with SEC securities laws. And also, I'm happy to share anything that is kind of related because I know like privacy AI is a hot topic here. So I can also talk about some rule related and securities related and also like privacy law related stuff.
Definitely a lot to share. You know that you guys are like top-notch minds in the space. You know a lot about what's going on with AI, etc. But I'm really looking forward to listen to what you guys have in store. I see a couple of like known faces here in the live chat, like Satoshi San and some others. Shout out for everyone listening to us at this moment. Pascal, now time for you. Welcome to CMC Live as well. Huge pleasure to have you here. I think second time for Acurast, but first time for you. Correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
that's correct. Alessandro, my co-founder, was on the last time. So now it's my turn and my pleasure to be with you here. And yeah, talk about a topic that is very dear to the Acurast team. Maybe also more from a bit of a technical perspective. So it's very cool to have Vincent on as well to share a bit of another perspective from kind of the legal side of things into this discussion as well.
100% it is, and I do remember that conversation that I had with him, because afterwards I think that Acurast has been kind of like part of my daily thing. I've been always checking the app on my phone, etc. So like that has been something. If you guys that are listening to us right now haven't heard that live stream with Acurast, make sure to go to coinmarketcap.com/community/lives, and you can check all the previous conversations that we have here. This is just one of those. Last but not least, Barry, also welcome to CMC Live. Huge pleasure to have you here, and I hope you have a great time here with us today.
thank you, guys. Very excited. I'm here to learn just as much as educate, I guess, in some ways. But yeah, looking forward to the
100%. I am also looking forward to that. And let's warm things up by giving people like a little bit of an introduction. I mean, about you guys, the projects that you guys are working in, I think is the best thing, because the topic today, I mean, is becoming more and more relevant by the days that we go by. And I think that as AI continues to bleed innovation, real world use cases, and all that, this is a topic that we must cover. I think that's one of the things. And this lineup is definitely incredible. I think that having you guys have been able to put you guys stories together here is awesome. But let's warm up things by giving a short snapshot of what your project is about and also current focus and also about you guys. Like, how long have you been in crypto? How you joined crypto? Let us know all about it. Now I'm going the opposite way. So I'm starting with you on this one, Barry. Like, let us know a little bit more about you and SKD as well.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've been in crypto for about 5 years now. I started as a full stack developer at Unicrypt, and uh, recently I joined SQD as a DevRel. So I have a lot of experience. So just to kind of what SQD does, SQD is a basically a data aggregator. It aggregates all blockchain data and makes it super easy and accessible to basically consume it. So you don't have to wait for RPCs to sync all these things. It's just like optimized for just data consumption. So you can build like apps like, CoinMarketCap, essentially, as a data source. You can build, AI apps, anything you want, basically. Anything on chain, we ingest and you can index. So yeah, that's kind of about me. And yeah.
That's awesome. And I do know some DevRels. I know the job ain't easy, to be very honest with you. I know that is something that is also very important. And a few people in outside of the industry that are not necessarily building something know exactly like how important is the DevRel job, but just like developing relationships with developers is actually something that is really important for absolutely any project out there, any ecosystem or wherever you want to build. If you don't have people building there, you have nothing end of the day. So that's like just me shutting out a little bit of the job that you do because I know the real importance of it. Now moving on to Pascal, tell us a little bit about you because we know a little bit about Acurast already, but not necessarily all the people that are listening have also listened to the previous live. So give us a snippet of it and also a little bit of a background.
Yeah, I have to echo that as well on the DevRel. You guys are doing an amazing job, and it's like a vital job for every project out there, right? Taking care of devs essentially and giving them the right tools to build on this Web3 stack in general. On my side, I mean, I have been in the space actually quite a long time already. I just kind of calculated in my head that it has been 8 years, which was kind of mind blowing to me. But I started with Alessandro, my co-founder, essentially around beginning of 2017, building wallets in the space, like working on various product, and essentially kind of culminating this mobile security knowledge that we've had before we went into the crypto space with Acurast in the end. And for those that don't know Acurast yet, it's essentially a decentralized compute network without data centers. And what I mean by that is that centralized clouds essentially build up these huge data centers. They build on top of servers. And what we are saying is that if we want to kind of compete with them, we need to change the rule of the game. And we can change the rule of the game by using something completely different than servers, namely phones. Because a phone, like everyone has it in their pocket. Maybe there's some like lying around in a drawer getting dusty. But what a lot of people don't realize yet is kind of the huge compute power that these phones pack that are equally on par with servers, essentially. And then there are some nice added primitives like security with the secure enclave that they bring, and this ultimately allows us to kind of build up this decentralized compute network. Now there's already over 70,000 phones onboarded onto this out of 130 countries, so very decentralized. And on the other side, this compute is then being used by developers to deploy a simple website towards confidential AI applications.
Awesome to hear that, and just to give us a little bit of view on that. And now you guys know about SQD, you know about Acros, but we are still missing Flock.io. Vincent, I see a message here from, it's hard to pronounce some names of the people here in the live chat, but it's Amir SRTP. I think he says he's a big fan of Flock.io. So tell us everything about Flock.io for those that still don't know what it is. What is it, and how, I mean, how you got into Flock and how you got into crypto, like a little bit of a back.
I think you're muted there, Vincent, at least for me.
Yeah, Vincent, I don't know if you can hear us, but I don't think we can actually hear you. I heard some things on the background, but I'm not sure if coming from you or from someone else. But I mean, if that's the case, just let us know.
Oh
Maybe drop
yeah,
off and
sorry,
drop in again.
sorry.
Yeah,
The app.
now we can hear you perfectly fine. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead,
the app.
Vincent. Did you get my question, by the way?
Yeah, I got your question, but the app didn't,
So go ahead.
function really well. I was like, I was pushing the mic, but it fell. But yeah, it was back on. So
Nah,
yeah,
no worries. Please go ahead from the beginning because we haven't heard anything. So yes, you give us all the.
sure. Like Flock. Flock is a it's acronym for Federal Learning on Blockchain. So what we do is basically for model training platform. It's we do platform business. So basically, like people can post a task about like what kind of model you would like to build, and so basically, and our community AI engineer is going to deliver the models to the model request. So this is simply the business model we have, and also like we emphasize like federated learning. So this is how we proceed with privacy training for all the models. And all our platform was recently used by QN, Alibaba QN. It's the tier one like open source model producer. And so this is basically the first instance that the decentralized AI actually recognize and use decentralized AI platform. And we also have a lot of like Web2 use cases. For example, like we started with UCL Hospital in London with their glucose monitoring pads. So basically glucose level monitoring, kind of like prediction model, and also a lot of bankings, including investment banking and commercial banking. And also we were recently used by a government. So it's I cannot disclose the name, but we'll publish the PR very, very soon. So you can think of this as a AI version of Dodge. So Department of Government Efficiency for not in the U.S. but for other government, so they can basically run their government more efficiently. Well, my personal story is that I entered this space by the end of 2018, actually, as a not as a a project founder, but as a lawyer. So at that time, there was a very very old project called Blockstack. I participated on their RAC A, its Regulation A offering in the United States, and then also participated like the RAC CF for like UNOW. I did a lot of IPOs for blockchain related companies like BigMart, like BitFuFu. Back to my experience with Wilson Sonsini and Cooley, two elite law firms in Palo Alto, and then also had a few years in investment bank and did a lot of emergent acquisition for blockchain related business as well. Then I joined Flock at CFO. So basically, I do everything, but everybody knows like the startup, then the titles in startups doesn't make sense. So basically, I do everything without coding in Flock. So yeah, happy to share anything that is related to Flock, and happy to answer anything from the community.
Yeah, that's awesome. And by the way, when you mention about answer anything from the community, there are some questions that people are dropping already here on the chat. So, I mean, for everyone listening, if you have questions, feel free to drop here. Not necessarily going to unpack them during the live. Some yes, some no for sure. But I mean, you can engage and interact by any time. So for all the guests here as well, if you want to just drop in and cover any of the questions that here have here in the live chat, please feel free to do that. And as we have almost 1.5k people listening to us at this very moment, I think now we do know who is in the room. We can zoom out a little bit and deep dive into our real conversation and why does confidentiality matter in AI. So we hear a lot about just AI being powerful, transformative, but it's also risky. And we kind of know that. Like everyone has been, I think, warned at least once about the risks involved in the AI development. So let me throw this out to the group. And I mean, you guys feel free to jump in at any time. I think maybe we can start with Pascal this time since you haven't started anyone. But why does confidentiality in AI even matter? Do we really need it? It's just like a nice to have for edge cases. I want to explore a little bit more, understand that better with you guys. Like, why does confidentiality in AI matters for real? Pascal, let's start with you.
Of course. I mean, right now, at this time uses AI.
I don't know if just for you guys, but Pascal
So
has been breaking a little bit for me. Is just myself or
for
is
all
for
of these,
everyone?
at least for me,
Yeah, a
for
little
it.
bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
okay.
bit
No,
jammed.
no problem. Yeah, no problem, no problem. But you can guys can hear me well, right? I think it's just a matter right there, I think. I
Yep.
don't know. Okay, got it. Pascal, so maybe just like just trying to go back to the beginning so we can fully hear you. By the way, I think he just dropped off and we'll jump on again. Pascal, can you hear us well right now? Let me know. I tend to think so, but I'm not 100% right. So I just want to make sure with that. So I think as Pascal goes like starting in his, restarting his things there, maybe we can just shift to Barry or Vincent. Any of you guys want to chime in first on that? On why does confidentiality even matter in AI? Like, what is the big thing about it that you guys want to unpack? Maybe let's kick it off with one of you.
I have a few points on this. I would say, especially when it comes to, especially when it comes to agents related to DeFi and all this information. So every time you send a request to an AI agent, whoever is hosting it can see a lot of information about your requests and build a profile on you. So, for example, they can kind of understand what trades you're doing. I would say this is like the prime uh, the prime point why private computers are so important for something like this. Yeah, the second point is obviously you don't want training to happen on your data, for example, right? So if ChatGPT has all your trades, knows can build this profile on your trading habits and things like this also comes into play.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Vincent, want to chime in on that?
Keeps going red, but never mind. Yeah, so definitely. So like the why AI privacy important to us is basically the same question for why privacy data is important to us, or why privacy is important to us. Like, for a lot of retail use cases, like for example, like we're collaborating with a GameFi and also a traditional gaming industry like the player. So your gameplay, for example, in GTA 6, not everybody want AI to know, like, or the person behind the AI, for example, or the open AI, want to know your little tricks, little nasty kind of role play in GTA 6. Like, this is simply a privacy issue, right? And also for like business settings, like especially in hospitals, in clinicals or pharmaceuticals, like GDPR in the EU, they have a lot of very high sensitive data that cannot be transferred or transmitted between jurisdictions. So this is also applies to AI. Like, for example, like in law firms, investment banking, in very highly sensitive kind of use case in the business settings, you, there are firm policies that you cannot use ChatGPT, for example, to polish your writing, because like when I was writing a prospectus, or I was writing a annual report for Nvidia or for other public companies, those those data will be transmitted to the to the open AI, for example. Then these people can possibly front run the market with those data, right? And also for a lot of um, I would say, your clinical data sets. This is also very, very important to you. Like, people don't want others to know their, for example, like like their gender, like their sexual orientation, and those will be consumed by centralized data and, I mean, centralized AI. So this is also very, very important. Why we need a privacy training in the AI models.
Yeah, that also makes a lot of sense. And I'm just thinking, as you mentioned, the gaming example, I think that everyone can kind of like resonate to that, because everyone, I think, plays some sort of game everywhere. So it is the comprehension for anyone. Pascal, can you hear as well right now? If you want to chime in on that as well, I think that now you can.
Yes, of course. I hope you can hear me good. I echo what Nico said here, especially what is, I think, quite interesting when it comes to these enterprises, right? Not from like a business standpoint, is that you're essentially getting left in the dust. So to kind of, if you're not able to the advantages that AI offer you, because you cannot expose business proprietary. If you use like a provider, the only option that you currently have is essentially going back for cloud compute, which is you building up your own data center again, right? Putting server in there, essentially that you can have this closed loop of AI inference and also training on your data, right? Because otherwise, like we said, it would be given away potentially. You don't know where it ends up, right? Is it suddenly in a model that has been retrained and someone data and gets the answer, right? Now, this is often not a solution, right? Because this is very expensive. If you think buying hardware, getting locations, and all of that. And I mean, for larger companies, these might be somewhat solution. At SMEs, like smaller to medium-sized companies, this is definitely not a solution for them, right? So they're getting essentially left behind. Here is essentially what we are saying. You should be able to get access to hardware where not even inspect what is going on. And this is something that trusted execution environments are neatly something that Acurast is leveraging towards then getting into the state of we can really use inclusive AI essentially that is completely trustless and confidential.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like that's what I mean, it's part of the crypto ethos as well. And I think it goes just beyond that, just like AI kind of being a part of that when you kind of like have this intersection in between crypto and AI. We also have the same values, the same principles basically passed along. So I think it's a natural thing to think about and to understand what is the reasoning behind confidentially AI and why it really matter for us in the day to day. But also, I think now we establish kind of like the why, but I also want to understand the how. Let's put it like this. And let's say, if we want confidentiality into AI to be more than just a talking point, more than just a conversation that we are having here, what actually needs to happen for us to get there? Is there any kind of infrastructure, maybe design decisions, policies? Like, what do we need in kind of like to make it happen, and how are you guys approaching it in each of your projects, in each of the different businesses that you guys are helping to run there? And I think this one, maybe we can start with Vincent and then go to Pascal and then Barry. So Vincent, starting with you, like key point is what actually needs to happen to get us to the point where we get confidentiality built into AI.
Super, super. Yeah, this is exactly what we're building right now. So Flock is a privacy preserving kind of model training platform. So this is, we accomplish it by using decentralized federated learning and also QN and other, other fellow, centralized AIs calling advancing federated learning. So this is when you train your model locally and only upgrade upload your gradients of the model so that the gradients themselves can combine each other and form a better model. So basically, without transmitting all your raw data, you can still train your models. I can make a little example about how you can actually achieve it. So imagine you are solving a mathematical problem. So like there can be a lot of processes. There can be a lot of methodologies to solve. For example, one plus one equals to two. But you can also use derivatives to solve that. But no matter what kind of process you're using, you only upload your correct answer, your final answer. Maybe not correct, but yeah. So this is how like the model actually going to say, okay, whenever I had a question 1 plus 1, then it always equals to 2. So this is maybe not an appropriate example, but this is how we are building using federal learning. But traditional, like, or we call it centralized federal learning, um, their claim to be they're solving that using this methodology as well. But the problem is the centralized federal learning has a supervising node. So the supervising node is kind of like they dispatch all the models to the local training nodes, and also they have to detect what kind of malicious act, for example, like people are not training the model very well, or they basically include the models. Um, so that's a major reason why like the federal learning cannot scale in the traditional sense. We're using that using blockchain technology. So basically, like people have to stake amount of tokens in order to start training process. Then we have a bunch of AI validators on our platform as well, so that when the validators actually detect, okay, you have a -1 or basically negative contribution to the final models, your token is going to be slashed. So it's a actually economic disincentivize mechanism. So we put it on. We're trying to solve the problem for traditional federal learning, and also because the nature of blockchain, it can naturally disseminate all the models to local training nodes. So this is like timestamp one by one, and also when we detect, one single node is actually polluting the model, we can take it out, and we can reverse the previous phase, and then, combine all the, correct, or I would say like the positively contributing models all together, so that the model itself going to be purified and going to be super performant.
Yeah, love to hear that, and just to know how you guys are working on it. I think is second to none. Just to better understand what is being taking place right now and the steps that we are, I mean, just building towards getting to that point. Pascal, I mean, I see you're unmuted already, so you want to chime in on that as well?
Yeah, of course. I think it's something that Acurast tackles on a level below, but it's also very complementary with Flock. That's also why we're exploring certain things on kind of collaborating together and using Acurast compute for running certain things of Flock and vice versa, right? But for us, the kind of question is more also from a fundamental perspective, meaning that we think compute in general should be highly accessible across the globe, right? And this means that we can really leverage this compute powered network that we have built up that has this interesting primitive of being confidential compute, thanks to these secure enclaves that all of these phones bring with them. And this essentially translates into a system where I can deploy and run an AI model on one or multiple of these phones scattered across the globe, depending on what my requirements are. And the hardware provider, essentially the person that provides compute with their phones, is not able to inspect the workloads that I'm running on them. And I think this is kind of a very, very amazing breakthrough, because in the end, you can offer this global compute network where you don't have to trust essentially the provider itself, and they are like technically not able to inspect what is going on within this secure enclave and the data that's being used for running inference of the models, or in general compute when it comes to Acurast, right? And for me and for the team on our side as well, this is kind of an amazing game changer, because now suddenly we can enable all of these AI service companies that have thousands of SMEs, like smaller, medium-sized enterprises, and even large-sized enterprises, giving them the tool to tap into AI with their business critical data. And I think this is kind of, if you think about it, that this compute network is powered by something that we are carrying in our pocket on a daily basis, or that is has vanished in a drawer somewhere and is being taken out, is kind of mind-blowing for me. Essentially, kind of the vast amount of compute that is out there.
Yeah, and it's good to have people working on different fronts because it's of course not the same, but just giving people a perspective. It's like having people working on the different layer ones, then the dApps that are above it, and all the tokens, meme coins, AI agents, etc. You need to have different projects working on different levels of the same issue. Otherwise, you just have one of those levels tackled, and that's why what Pascal mentioned about they're tackling this kind of issue in a different level than Flock is doing, but being complementary, doing things together. That's why it's very important to have so many players working towards the same goal and doing different tasks that will lead us to that point. And Barry, I also want to hear your thoughts on this. If you have some, please share with us because I think it's important to understand what everyone is doing. And you are, I mean, doing relationship with developers, right? So you can actually tell us, like, from the developers' perspectives, like what can actually be done, how hard it is to get those things done as well. So share us a little bit of your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think private compute solves, a huge issue. The way I like to think about it is, the server and where the model lives. It if this part is private, then it solves, a lot of privacy issues already. So ideally, I think you need multiple layers of privacy. So you have private compute, then you have permissions. So you can say which data can be sent to the server, which can't, just in case. And on top, you have anonymity. So in this case, for example, crypto is anonymous, right? So this layer of anonymity adds a lot of protection for the sender of the information. As long as you don't expose your, private information, if you can stay anonymous, then all this data really can't be linked back to you in an easy way, basically. And because crypto data is anonymous by default, blockchain data, I mean, unless you expose yourself, it's anonymous, anyone can create one. At sqd we aggregate all data from over 200 blockchains, so you can basically, if you're building an agent on a private network, and you can tap into this data and mix it, with data sets that you already have. So you can create like really powerful data sets that you can combine with social signals, and things like this, and create really powerful information pipelines for your use cases, basically. Um, to power, all sorts of things, AI agents. So one of the examples, actually, it's a cool project. Like, for example, sqd GM. It's a Twitter bot that uses sqd network to basically create signals. It's one of the original virtual launches, and it creates these signals, and the performance. I mean, it seems pretty powerful. So yeah, and obviously, running sqd on your servers is the data. Just mixing it with tweets, with all this social information, is really powerful.
100% it is.
I think maybe,
Go ahead, go
sorry
ahead.
for jumping in here, Gabriel. I think what Barry also mentions here is very, very interesting as well, that you can pre-select certain data sets, right? And only consume what's valuable for you essentially within the model, and pull that in, and not have kind of a huge set of data that is kind of then at waste in the end, right? So that you can pre-filter and say, okay, this is relevant for me. This is something that my specific model needs to essentially be able to fulfill the task that it has been given, but without having to pack a huge amount of data into this, making it also leaner when it comes on the compute side.
Completely agree with you. Thanks for chiming in and sharing those thoughts with us, Pascal, because I feel like it gives kind of like it ties everything together, right? And I mean, as you guys were talking about like how it is, like the things that are being done, etc. I want to also kind of like play around with it. It's not a challenge, but something like a little bit forward thinking here. Just like if we fast forward a little bit, let's say we do figure out how to bring confidential AI to life at scale I wanted to ask you guys, because you're building that, so you know it better than anyone. Like, what does it unlock for us? Like, how do you imagine like a full, let's say, private agentic web looks and feels? How does it looks and feels like? What are, I mean, what is different for users? I mean, on a Barry's case, like for builders and even regulators in that kind of future. Let's say we've made it. Now, what is different? And mainly, let maybe start things with users, right? I don't know, maybe who wants to give, I mean, a short first at this one. Feel free to go ahead. I think that everyone has a lot of interesting things to share, probably. So I'm just get this one open, and you guys can just.
Yeah, maybe just from my side to set quickly the stage, also what this means from my perspective when we're talking about kind of this agentic web, right? And with fully confidential AI, kind of you being able to have a digital twin in the end, right? And this is very interesting if you think about it, that you really have something mirrored in an environment that is completely trustless, and you can give that digital twin certain tasks that can be executed on your behalf, right? But also interesting things coming to mind then as well, like medical data and all of that, right? That's something that this specific twin then knows. And on kind of the other side, if you think about enterprises, they can then have specific task fulfillers that have a subset of their business critical data that are tasked with fulfilling specific tasks in the end, right?
Yeah,
100%. I
100%.
see Vincent already open mic. Go ahead, Vincent. Don't need to wait for me.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, so yeah, I'm gonna divide into like two perspectives. The first is, yeah, definitely chime into, the previous discussions regarding like the business customers, because we are dealing with like traditional business customers a lot. As I said, like in the previous, in the previous questions, like for example, like hospitals, they're super concerned about their patient data because basically they cannot transfer between hospitals or even between jurisdictions, so that those are very very confidential, and so basically you don't want to share your diseases with others, right? Like diseases, what kind of stage you are. So this is actually very, very important, like in the future, about like the privacy AI, and as well as like government. So basically, by the end of the financial years, government, they don't want to open books. They don't want to open the financial accounts with different departments. And also, you're gonna do a little bit tweaks, by the end of the year as adjusted book value, so that you can still have your like for example, you can still have your money from Congress. And also like another perspective from for retail, like my CTO always said to me, they're gonna be maybe the AGI is not that far, but people interacting with different like with AGI is pretty different, I would say. So for example, like when you're interacting with ChatGPT, different peoples have different methods. For example, like asking different questions, but the ChatGPT doesn't always get it right. So like this is something like we're super fascinated about, like privacy AI in the future. Like we may have SLMs, like the small language models, but that is only tailored to you. And SLM's data are not going to be transmitted anywhere or into the proprietary models. So those SLMs are actually you can think of it as a translator. Well, not appropriate example, but you can think of AGI as a god. But you need a translator between you and the god, so the god can actually understand your question and answer your question appropriately, the way that you want them to be answered, or you actually want get the correct answer. So this is like to business, they're going to be a lot of domain specific models that really appreciate privacy, but for retail perspective, they're going to be a SLM that can really understand you and help you to communicate between the AGI and your local devices. Like people are building MCPs for kind of reason.
100% agree. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah,
In
I
the
just I just wanted to chime
yeah.
in. Basically, I think AGI as a concept maybe is many years away from now, right? So the best thing we have right now that's kind of like very promising, I would say, is this decentralized network of agents, right? Just living on different platforms and just interacting with each other, using things like MCP protocol, for example, and such. And yeah, I would say you having something like this is, it's a stepping stone, but it can solve a lot of really real problems. Especially provides a window into real-time data, because you may train your model on a bunch of historical analytical data and such, but the step between the training and real-time data like context, uh, etc., system prompts, there's definitely like this big gap, which I would say only small modules of agents can solve currently.
I agree on something that you mentioned, Barry, that hopefully AGI is a couple years from now. Hopefully so. I think that's what me and many people believe. And just like, I mean, we hope that it's actually like a little bit ahead on the road, not necessarily we want AGI that close to us. So yeah, let's figure it out. I think that AI is an idea that we are not an idea, right? Because it's much more than a reality right now, but AGI is actually an idea that we still need to get more familiarized with. And as you mentioned, just like some thoughts for the future. And I mean, just adding a hook from what you said that I want to ask you guys, because we've talked a lot about vision. I think now let's try to bring it a little bit closer to home. Like one bold prediction you guys may have for confidential AI and this agentic web over, let's say, next 12 next 12 months, something like that, just like a year, 6 months, maybe a year and a half from now, like can be about, for example, tech breakthroughs that you believe are going to happen, market shifts, or even adoption trends that you believe are now in the verge of taking place and potentially can happen really, really soon. I mean, whoever of you guys are willing to put some like spicy records right now, bold predictions, feel free to go ahead and do it, because I want to know from the people that are actually there. You guys are building this on a daily basis. You are in touch with the ones who are actually putting those things out to us users to make good use out of it. So I want to understand, like, what do you guys think? Any bold predictions you have for either confidential AI, agentic web, anything over the next 12 months? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I can go first here. I think the kind of tooling that is being developed right now from Squid and also Flock and all of the others in this space is kind of progressing immensely rapidly, right? So the cool thing is then that this is really being made accessible. And I think for the Acurast perspective, if you think about, we currently have these 70,000 phones onboarded providing compute to the network. For me, in 12 months, it's essentially that we have reached 1 million phones onboarded. And this is massive amount of compute if you think about it. And it's not just normal compute where you would just run like any other website, right? But it's compute that has these confidential models. And I think that's also an interesting point that Variant Vincent also brought up. It's essentially that you can then run highly specific agents for specific tasks, right? And this is something that you also need the compute then again for. And often, or more often than not, you don't want to have kind of this public compute where you kind of share the data, like we've started the conversation off, but essentially having it with business critical data, with highly personalized data, like we have spoken about the health aspect of it, right? So I think what we can do with
Yeah, Pascal, I think that you just got dropped out and in again. Maybe we had some connection issues there. Not quite sure. Can you hear us?
yes,
Yeah, yeah. When you're just, I think, going to drop your
yes,
big
can you hear
prediction, I
me?
think it just cut you out. Yeah, we can hear you right now.
The prediction was too big.
Very good. Always the best. So essentially what I said, we currently on Acurast is like 70K onboarded phone, but In 12 months, I said we are at the 1 million onboard phones, and this is massive company get access to. And it's confidential that we have spoken about, that enables all of these different engines that are specific to run in a completely trust way.
I see you there unmuted already, Barry. Do you want to go next?
Yeah. I would love to contribute to this. I think so. The cool thing about like the phone and just using models on the phone, it's just like the models are getting smarter and smarter, and they're getting smaller with time, right? And the phones are getting obviously more powerful. So just having this device in your pocket that can slowly creep in power towards the levels of GPT 3.5, GPT 4 is absolutely incredible. And this is how we get the democratization of AI, basically just millions of these devices working privately, and maybe communicating, maybe hosting agents, maybe, and just communicating with each other and forming this huge network of an insane amount of compute. I would say rivaling most established platforms, especially when it comes to real-time data and just agentic.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I concur with all of you. And so in my opinion, like in the foreseeable future, in a macro level, so like people are still like in Palo Alto, they're competing with proprietary models. They're still doing like video proprietary models. They're doing like open source GPT, not open source Llama, Qwen, GPT, it's closed source. So basically, like I think after the marginal benefit of developing all of different like proprietary models, like people gonna focus on domain specific models. These models will specifically tackle specific use cases. For example, like banking stuff, like or agentic like trading, agent to agent trading, those financing stuff. So yeah, I think there are gonna be a lot of attentions to domain specific use cases. And also, I think like traditional world gonna more toward to privacy AI, especially decentralized AI, so that you can see the train like the base chain shift their MCP model use case. Like, we are kind of like they use Flock models, like the Flock Foundation model for their on-chain MCP use cases, which we kind of like replace the cloud for on-chain, all the on-chain movement. And like Qwen use our training platform to train their privacy AI model. So this is how like the traditional AI is actually keen towards the decentralized part. And we're helping and opening the gates for privacy AI for the entire decentralized community. And also we're kind of like tackle the field of domain specific. And so overall, I think domain-specific AI models gonna survive in the future, and also privacy decentralized AI gonna survive in the future.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see those predictions
Maybe one last
unfolding.
thing that I
Go
want
ahead,
to
go
throw
ahead.
in as well on Barry's point, according to kind of the phones, right? And it's kind of baffling if you look at the stats. There are 1.1 billion new phones sold annually. That's amazing amount of compute, right? If you compare it with servers, I think that's around 113 million. So that's already a huge difference. And this difference is very noticeable as well if you look at another stat that I think is quite interesting, that Apple itself invests annually 33.3 billion into R&D when it comes to the mobile phone. So this is really kind of the cutting edge technology in the end, and I think this is kind of the future of compute that we can make accessible.
Yeah, I mean, guys, go ahead, Barry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to add. It's such a great example because I didn't look much into Apple Intelligence and all these technologies they're working on, but from the overview that I got, this combination of small compute plus big compute is insanely powerful. If we can, if you can answer easy questions, starting with small compute, and then move on to like the more demand you need. And you can see it with a lot of models these days, right? If you use Cursor or any other models, you always have like smaller models that helps you predict things, do all these other tasks. Like small models can really be optimized for a particular task. You can have a model trained specifically on medical data, for example. It's a medical, so you train it, you give it proper context, and together it's a much more powerful model than a large model that would require a lot more to run, and it performs better in benchmarks. So this is I strongly believe like this hybrid model is going to be the future.
And
And
I'll be
especially
honest.
what you can also do is kind of linking the two together, right? So having kind of multiple, so with the phone example again here, kind of having multiple phones that then are essentially locally linked together that then provide more compute and can run larger models, right?
Yes, 100%. And guys, I'll just throw in something as well because I'm no specialist end of the day, so I'm just watching it from the sidelines. But hopefully, like in the next 12 months or so, we can see like let's say a first mainstream consumer app, for example, that runs entirely on confidential AI. Maybe users having absolutely no idea what's going on, but they are being never exposed to it. It just feels kind of like for everyone listening to be more like I mean in tune to what I'm saying. It's just like feels like ChatGPT on a regular assistant, but under the hood, fully private. I think that could be a major moment in providing privacy. Let's see what takes place in the upcoming months. I think that would be definitely interesting to see unfolding if that actually happens. Hopefully so. And I think that is just a lot that we can still talk about AI. We could be here for like many hours to come still, but at the end of the day, I think we covered most of the topics that we have. I mean, propose it for today's live. So I want to also, before you chime in with your last messages, I want to thank you very much, all of you three, and the projects, of course, to sending you guys to talk about this because this has been, I think, a very insightful conversation for everyone that kind of knows, like, hey, AI is this, is that. I may use this on a day to day, but what is the actual intrinsic things that should be discussed about AI that are not necessarily given the spotlight as much as they deserve to? So before we wrap, just want to thank all of you for sharing your thoughts and insights today. I think it's clear that this space is not just, let's put it like this, like it's not just theory, it's happening and faster than and I think most people would expect and realize. Huge shout out to everyone, of course, and just passing on the words to each one of you for a final message to the audience, where to get in touch with the teams, to get in touch with you guys, to make use of the things that you're building as well. Let's do this. I think the same way that we did in the beginning. So let's start with Vincent on this one. Vincent, thank you very much for coming. Pleasure to have you here, and let us know where we can come, people can connect with you guys, learn more about Flock.io and all that.
Yeah, definitely follow us on Twitter. Definitely follow us on Discord and Telegram. So we have a lot of channels that our referrals are very friendly. You can ask any questions about anything about Flock or how to build with Flock, how to build with Flock models. We're super excited to see more product market fit applications using our models. And yeah, happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Shout out, by the way, to Sasha. Why not to see you comment here? Sasha, always welcome here on live chat. I see a lot of, comments from 67Q as well, and many other creators that have been here on community, like Shamir, for example, also Max. I see you all here, like just chatting and let us know a little bit of what you guys think as well. Pascal, now time for you, just like some final thoughts from your end and where people can follow up and get in touch with Acurast and the team.
Yeah, I think I can only agree with what you've said, right? The kind of confidential ChatGPT version, that is kind of where is we want to be at, right? And what we need for that is the confidential compute. And on Acurast, there is two ways, right? On one side, you can use that confidential compute. Then, in some shape or form, there will be interesting things to come on that side in the coming days. So stay tuned for that. But what you can also do is just use your phone and provide compute, right? There are rewards that you can earn because that compute is being used on the other side. And I really think this is kind of the future, that it's not an if, more a when question, right? Where we are heading to this confidential ChatGPT approach. So yeah, grab your iPhone, grab your Android, grab your phone that sits in a drawer, gets dusty, install the Acurast processor app, provide compute. You get all the details on acurast.com or Acurast on X, and we are always happy to answer the questions. And our amazing community of rebels from the Cloud Rebellion are always there to help out.
Thanks for joining, Pascal. Pleasure to have a Crest team here once again. And last but not least, Barry, I wanted to thank you for joining as well. And let us know where we can get in touch with SQD team. Like, where can we learn more about it for everyone listening so they know what to do after?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. And I feel like, all of us, all the protocols combined, we can train, deploy, and, serve this incredible data just with anonymously is like incredible to me. So yeah, I mean, you can follow SQD at Hello SQD. We're on Twitter. We're on Telegram. You can follow me, 0xberry on Twitter. And yeah, this talk has been hugely educational to me, and it's always a pleasure to talk about AI, especially decentralized AI.
100% it is, and I think it's been educational for all of us involved here. But before we leave, just a quick heads up for everyone listening. As always, I like to mention that none of this show content, of course, is financial advice. Besides, I don't think we have any kind of advices or any insightful thoughts about anything today. We always recommend you to do your own homework before diving into any investments, especially crypto and especially AI as well, because we know there are a lot of opportunities out there in the AI market, but you need to be very careful where you put your money on because, yeah, I mean, it's your money. You should take good care out of it. So do your homework and don't take any of this content as financial advice. With that said, thanks a ton for everyone who tuned in today. It was a pleasure to spend an hour with you guys before my lunchtime. I think that I mean, different time zones for everyone else around the globe, but for me, that's the time right now. And that's a wrap for today's live. Big shout out to everyone joining, and also special shout out to Vincent, Pascal, and Barry to guide us through this crazy AI confidential matter here, because I do feel like this is going to be one of the major topics of the conversation moving ahead. As I said before, not I mean, the spotlight it deserved it yet, but little by little, you guys are going to hear more and more to talk about this, and you will remember that on CMC was probably the first place where you heard of it. As I said, thanks for everyone joining. I see you all here next week. Until there, make sure to stay informed, stay safe, and keep hodling. Bye bye, and thank you everyone for joining. See you soon. Keep safe.